Is there anything in particular that was going through your mind then, in terms of big picture stuff or life flashing before your eyes, or what was going through your mind then, other than the obvious?
Yeah. Well, actually, there were two very distinct thoughts that went through my head. Well, first of all, when we heard about or when we saw the girl, this little girl in this pile of bodies, I mean, immediately we knew we were gonna have to go get her. There was no option about every single one of us. We knew that we would die trying if we had to do it. So there was like, hey, this has to be done, and we're the only ones who can do it. But when we actually got out there and the mortar and machine gun fire started, there were at one point I took a knee in this small ditch, and there's a dead a dead man, a dead Iraqi man, about 5 or 6 feet from me, and I as I sat in the ditch, that's kind of when I had these thoughts. I took a knee, and two thoughts went through my head. One was, A, I'm gonna die, but B, uh, we have to do something to get that girl out. And then the other thing too, it's gonna sound super moto, but it was true, man. Is like I thought about the SEAL Creed, where it talks about the reputation of the SEAL teams, and I thought, because I started going into shock. I could feel myself going into shock. My arms and legs stopped working because I was so terrified. I was absolutely horrified. I was like, okay, I'm going to die today. And obviously that's not a comfortable position to be in, but I was like, I can't pass out. I have to go accomplish this mission. And a lot of it was that, um, that reputation of the SEAL teams. And I was like, I have no choice but to continue forward because I earned my trident. And I actually was weird. My life didn't flash before my eyes. I just thought about some of some of my friends and stuff who had been killed in training and in combat. And I was like, I can't let them down. I have to do this.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think that there's an element of that the training that takes place where that's, I wouldn't say it's beat into you, but you're kind of inspired to the point where that becomes part of you. Do you find that your experiences going through buds and all of the extensive training that we do, that was a big contributing factor to that, or was there something else?
no, that's definitely a big contributing factor to it. But you can train and train and train all you want to, but when it comes down to the moment of sort of making the choice to go into a situation where you're going to die, that's a struggle that you have to have in your head every single time. You can kind of build a muscle memory to say, hey, I'm going to live my life by principle. I'm going to do the right thing no matter what it costs. And that's sort of a generic way of saying it. But when it comes time to actually doing it, you have to make that decision over and over again. Whereas, going to your rifle or going to your secondary when your rifle jams or whatever, that's an instinct that's kind of built in. But the decision and overcoming fear, that's a decision you have to make that decision every single time. As you're on an operation. It When you're getting shot at, and and when you're getting shot at accurately, it's like, hey, like,
Yeah.
dudes are going to get hit right now. You're afraid every single time. Yes, your training takes over, but yeah, you have to, I guess, make the decision each and every time. It doesn't get easier. If anything, it gets harder. The more you've seen people get hurt, the more you've seen people get hit, because it's no longer this deep, or it's no longer this esoteric concept that happens to other people. It's like, wow, this could happen to me too. So, yeah, I mean, so it's a mix of both. But yeah, just being a SEAL, when I thought about the Trident, I was like, dude, I can't not earn my Trident,
Yeah.
today, kind of thing.
Yeah. Were there other instances, either since or even before, I guess, where you found yourself in that same position and mentality?
Yeah, so only once, because this was sort of an extremis. These situations are sort of in extremis. It was actually my first firefight ever. Afghanistan, Overwatch. We're on some mountainside, and I was my first mission ever, and I was carrying the Mark 46 machine gun, and I was on the flank, completely exposed on a sort of downhill angle. So I had zero cover. I had a couple of small rocks about the size of my fist in front of me. They covered nothing except for my toes, and that gunfight initiated with several Taliban snipers trying to take me out because I was the most exposed guy, and I was downhill a little bit. So the rest of the team, they could shoot up the rest of the team if I got hit, and they had to come get me. But yeah, so these bullets started coming in. The first one landed about 9 feet from me, to my right. And I was like, oh, okay, sniper. So I screamed sniper. I dropped down, got behind my machine gun. I had no idea where it was coming from. And then I looked to my right just as a second bullet came in. It was bullet number 2 was 3 feet away. And I was like, okay, this third bullet's going to be right on. These guys know exactly where, know exactly their distance and wind. Their elevation was perfect. It was just they were trying to correct for wind. And so I just I hid behind my machine gun, put the crosshair on a tree line, and then just literally held the trigger and I stopped looking at my sights, and I literally just put my head down, so that way my helmet would hopefully absorb the impact of this third bullet. And sure enough, third bullet came in, landed right between my legs. I felt it explode. All the rock, shrapnel, and stuff hit me between the legs. It didn't injure me at all. And then, from that point on, it was just a full on gunfight. Tons of bullets coming in, landed in between me and the other guys that were kind of near my position. But as far as the mindset, though, this is my first mission ever.
Welcome to Afghanistan.
Yeah, my first instinct, of course, when the bullet came in, I was like, oh, I should probably run for cover, but there was no cover, and I would have to run past the other guys to get behind cover. And I was like, nah, that's not going to happen. And it was just purely out of, I guess, pride, purely out of, I'm not going to let my team down. Yeah. And I'd rather take a bullet right now than even to hear a joke afterwards about me running from a bullet or something. Yeah. So I was like, no, man.
Yeah. Did you guys ever find out, or, locate where exactly it was coming from and deal with it? Or?
We didn't locate exactly where it's coming from, but it was several guys in the tree line, and we brought in the A-10s, and they made quick work of the tree lines.
Do you know about how far away they were?
Yeah, they were about 600 to 700 yards out.
So they were using something other than AKs then?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Probably a Dragunov. Yeah. We had Chechen snipers in the area as well. Yeah.
Well, fucking right on. What is your favorite U.S. luxury / guilty pleasure that you'd say we largely take for granted? Other than the traffic?
Sleeping in a bed. Yeah. Sleeping in an actual bed. That's always my my biggest thing when I got to actually get back to like a hotel room and sleep on a bed with clean sheets. I'm always, that's always my favorite thing.
Do you have a specific mattress you use here in the States?
No, anything that's not the ground, I'm happy with.
Yeah. What is your, this is a question I ask everybody. What does your morning routine consist of when you're not traveling, just here in the States?
Okay. Yeah. So my morning routine is, first of all, I'm big on getting my full 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Get up and
what time?
Usually like 9:30ish, because I usually will get work done kind of in the evenings, and sometimes I'm usually up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning kind of thing. Then it's usually check emails, check social media, see what's going on, make sure everything's good with my organization, Stronghold, making sure all my teams and stuff are all taken care of. Usually, that usually takes an hour or 45 minutes kind of thing, and then usually go to the gym, either swimming or lifting, because my back's all messed up, so I'm not running right now. And then it's usually on with my day right around lunchtime, and just usually writing or working on just different projects. So it's a myriad of of insanity.
Do you eat anything first half of the day, or?
Yeah, well, I usually do relatively. I usually do intermittent fasting pretty much every single day.
That's not really intermittent then, is it?
What's that?
So it's not really intermittent then if you do it every day, right?
Well, that's true. I gotcha. So I'll usually take some supplements in the morning, just real simple stuff like D3, B12, and chia seeds. I'll just have some chia seeds and water just for some good hydration and electrolytes to get my day started. Some coffee, some tea sometimes. I like to switch it up a little bit. I don't drink coffee every day. I don't drink tea every day. I try to keep it balanced out because I don't want to get too dependent on one substance or another.
Yeah, other than the heroin, right?
Other than the heroin, yeah. That's why I really travel.
Yeah. You got to keep the supply routes open.
Exactly.
So where are you originally from? Where did you spend your childhood?
I grew up in Milwaukee. Wisconsin, right next to General Mitchell Airport there.
And what was it like growing up there? Because me being from northern Iowa, it's a much smaller, town, I think, than Milwaukee. But can you describe kind of your childhood and talk to us about what that was like?
So I had a really strange childhood. I was raised in a independent fundamental Baptist church. So every single day, and also the school was run by the church. Mm. So every single day I got up, of my entire childhood, I got up, put on a tie, and went to either school or church. So 5 days a week was school.
shit.
Obviously, Saturday mornings was like Saturday, like outreach ministries, and then Sunday was obviously church, and we went to church. And then also Wednesday night was church. So we went to church 3 times a week: Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, plus Sunday school. And
Jesus.
Saturday ministries. Yeah, so my entire childhood revolved around going to church, and it was kind of a, like I said, a fundamentalist version of it. And so it just, I mean, it wasn't a cult. Everybody's super nice. They were, good people.
That's the first thing people in a cult say is
Yeah, it's not a cult. I swear.
just drink the Kool-Aid. It's not a cult.
Well, yeah, when I was in the teams, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Mattos, this guy's from a cult. Yeah, he grew up in a cult." But no, it was just, yeah, real old school traditional values. I mean, girls weren't allowed to wear pants. You couldn't go to like movie theaters and things like that. But and when I, right around the age of 15 or 16 is when I realized, I wanted to be a SEAL, and I realized that I didn't want to necessarily go into like the ministry or something like that. And but looking at the time, I was kind of mad about how I grew up. But looking back at it now, I'm actually really glad that I grew up that way. I grew up very innocent, very in a very strong community atmosphere. Lots of good rules and good, just, I guess, just good old fashioned values that I really appreciate now. Looking back, I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so in terms of like the neighborhood and like, were you in a neighborhood where most people were that way? Was it like a small community?
No. Everybody had normal jobs and lived, normal places. I grew up lower middle class, regular neighborhood. I grew up riding my bike outside and building forts and building ramps and
Yeah.
and in this winter, of course, building snow forts and all that stuff, running around playing army with my friends, kind of thing. Yeah.
So with that kind of fundamentalist background, do you think that there's an element of that kind of inspired or motivated you to do what you do now, and I guess also join the Navy and become a SEAL? Was the drive to serve inspired by that fundamentalist religious background, you think?
I think that had a lot to do with, I think it had a lot to do with shaping who I am. So one of the things that I experienced, and I was very fortunate to experience. So obviously, I grew up in a like lower middle class white family from the Midwest, right? But I mentioned the Saturday morning ministries. On Saturday mornings, we basically would do church for kids essentially. And so what we would do is we would take buses, go into these different, different like poor neighborhoods, and bring the kids to church, and so they could have a day where they go to church and get out of the house a little bit. And the route that I was on was actually going into like the worst part of Milwaukee. It was a 99% black neighborhood, extremely poor, extremely high crime, and all while growing up, I was knocking on these people's doors at at 9 o'clock in the morning on on a Saturday kind of thing, and I was always invited into the house. So I got to see that the rest of the world doesn't live like I lived. Like most of the time you grow up as a kid and you're thinking, oh, this is the way that the world is, right? But I got to see from a very young age, like, no, even just a couple miles down the road, people don't have it as good as you have it, and people are struggling. And again, the rest of the world isn't exactly, like how you understand it to be. And so I think that kind of put this seed in my heart to kind of realize like, oh man, people need help. And when I joined the Navy, it was like I wanted to I truly was like, I want to serve my country. I want to help people by killing bad guys. That's that's my way of helping. That's what I want to do. So yeah, I think it absolutely affected very much who I am to this day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like it would be almost impossible to to not draw some sort of correlation with that. Can you kind of, I guess, describe the difference between the religious, call it a sect, or preference that you had growing up, as compared to, say, a more mainstream? Was it just the frequency with which you guys went to church, or
I think honestly, most of the values are the same. Most of the political views are the same. Most of the principles are the same. The biggest difference was just, they call it legal in religious terms. They call it legalism, where you just have a whole bunch of rules. So we had lots of very strict rules. Again, the girls can't wear pants. even so when they're wearing a skirt, it has to be 3 inches below their knee, even when they're sitting down. You can't go to movie theaters, can't listen to any kind of rock and roll music, anything with a drum beat in it, you can't listen to it. So
It
just
sounds like Footloose, for Christ's sake.
yeah, well, that's kind of what yeah, that's very close to how I grew up. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it wasn't mean and vindictive. It wasn't like that at all. It was just there was just these sort of strict rules. And like I said, it was looking back at it now, it was odd, but growing up, I was like, oh man, this is just the way life is.
Were there other kids in this community church that you had that broke the rules, and if so, what happened to them?
I mean, yeah. So when you went to school, so my school was kindergarten through 12th grade, and there was 75 kids in the entire school, and that was so I grew up, in a class with 4 other people. So when you broke a rule, you got demerits, and when you got a demerit, for example, like if your hair wasn't cut properly, you'd get 5 demerits. But and if you got 125 demerits in a semester, you got kicked out of school or you got suspended or something, right? And so yeah, 5 demerits for not having a correct haircut, 5 demerits for not having the right kind of socks. But like bigger infractions were things like, okay, if you went to a movie theater, right, that's like 50 demerits.
What?
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I guess did you ever question? And my question is, what is the the purpose and the opposition to rock and roll music, movie theaters,
Mhm.
etc. I get the dress code thing. That is what it is.
Mhm.
But what's the issue with going to a fucking movie?
So it was weird, right? And I remember growing up thinking it was weird because you could watch whatever movies you wanted to at home. You just couldn't go to a movie theater, which is just kind of bizarre. But it had something to do. The reasoning they gave us was they said, you need to be different than the rest of the world, and the rest of the world goes to movie theaters, so you shouldn't go to movie theaters. And that was kind of the idea behind it. But but then I was like, but everyone else drives cars. Like everyone, like so what? But we can do that, but we can't do this over here. I'm watching the same exact movie when it comes out at the library. I'm going to get my VHS tape and go get it. So it didn't make a ton of sense. The music thing was they were very big on they were very big on explaining to us the power of music, and it's something that I still believe to this day. Like music is extremely powerful in how it affects us. But with the drum beats and all these different things, they talked about basically how they use drum beats and like satanic rituals in Africa kind of thing. But then a lot of the lyrics and stuff are about, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and breaking the law or whatever. So they just didn't want us listening to any of that kind of stuff.
Not even Christian rock.
No, Christian rock was a no-go as well because there was drum beats in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fucking bizarre if I'm being honest.
Oh, no, it's totally bizarre. It's completely bizarre. But yeah, but like I said, growing up, I didn't realize that it was weird at all. But that's why I went around the age of 15, 16, I got a job at McDonald's because I wanted to get out there and make my own money. And it was interesting because I started interacting with people that I never really interacted before, just normal, average other kids, and started realizing things were a little bit off.
Did you have siblings?
Yeah, I have one older brother. Yeah.
What did he toe the line too, or did he start to get a wild hair when he was about that same age?
No, he toed the line the entire time. He's a really good dude. He's like one of the best human beings that I know. But he so he graduated high school from that school, and then worked for Coca-Cola for a couple of years, and then he actually ended up traveling the world doing humanitarian stuff for about like a year and a half, 2 years. Lived in India for a few years, working at an organization there. So also he's part of my influence too, because I started realizing more about the world of humanitarian work and kind of what that entails from him. But no, he never went off. Never went off the deep end, as they say. That was me.
Yeah. Did do you and your parents, or I guess do your parents still kind of abide by those codes and still live in that manner? Or?
No, not at all.
Really?
Well, the values are still there, and like I said, the values are really really good. But just as far as like the legalism of, okay, you can't listen to rock music or you can't go to movie theater, like all that stuff they don't follow. But yeah, they still believe in the same old school principles and stuff, and most of which I still believe in as well. Yeah.
Do you listen to music now?
Oh yeah, I love music. Yeah.
Is there anything that is carried over that people may find as odd that you've brought with you rule wise?
As far rule wise, no, probably not.
Yeah,
no,
pretty normal guy.
Yeah.
Did you play? Did you
The
play any
teams ruined me.
sports? Yeah, no shit. They'll fucking ruin everybody. Did you play any sports growing up? Was there any problem? With
Yeah, actually, sports was actually a big part of our life. So actually, the church that I went to in the school was actually built on a basketball court. This beautiful a basketball court, and so we had this full length, proper, basketball court with these basketball hoops that we would use a little pulley system, and you'd bring the hoops back down, kind of thing. And yeah, man, I grew up playing basketball. That was our thing, and I loved it. And we also played soccer as well.
Yeah.
Directly from the school. So we'd play other schools and things like that from other from other towns and cities that had similar beliefs as us, kind of thing. Yeah,
that's cool.